What happens when I laugh while another man mocks my husband in front of friends, and I call it harmless fun? How can a quiet husband turn my jokes into receipts and my audience into witnesses? Why does the end come on a crowded bus terminal concourse where my smile cannot help me? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Clarimond Ravel, and I still believe jokes should not break a marriage. I work the front desk at a small community theatre. I keep calendars neat and voices calm. Order is my job, and I am good at it. That is why I did not panic when Nico, the man I was seeing, teased my husband at the rooftop bar. People laughed, and I laughed too. I told myself it was only banter and chemistry. Ethan, my husband, stood quiet. He asked later why I cheered while another man mocked him. I said he was being sensitive. I said nothing bad happened. I said we all went home safe. At home, I acted busy and bright. I made coffee. I put our mugs on different sides of the counter so we would not bump into each other. He asked where I slept after the bar. I said at a guest bed, shoes on, and that this proved respect. He asked why a friend became a lover. I said the city is loud and modern. He said respect is simple. I said respect is flexible. He started writing small notes in a black notebook. I rolled my eyes and told him rules do not build love. I still think that. I set the scene before sunrise because tone matters. I brewed coffee and put the mugs on opposite ends of the counter so we would not bump. I opened the blinds a little to look organized. Ethan walked in with that quiet step that makes rooms hold their breath. He asked if I slept well. I said I did and that yesterday had only been jokes with friends. He asked why I laughed when Nico teased him about being too slow for city life. I said the bar was loud and banter is culture. He asked where I slept after the bar. I said at a guest bed, shoes on, blanket over me, and that this proved respect. I spoke in the tone I use with donors who need soothing. He placed his mug far from mine and watched the steam curl. He asked why I cheered for another man's punchline. I said couples who last bend with jokes. He asked where I went after the last round. I said we split cabs, and that the theatre crowd scattered, and that Nico and I talked about stage lighting, and then I lay down on a spare bed. He asked why I did not text. I said my battery was low and the streets were not safe. He asked why it had to be Nico. I said Nico was nearby and not the enemy. I said the real issue was Ethan's sensitivity. He looked at the calendar on the wall without moving his head. He said, trust is simple. I said flexible is the modern word. He asked if modern love needs public laughter. I said public laughter is nothing. He picked up his phone. A small box flashed. Downtown 1:25 p.m. He turned the screen face down. He said he had to step out later. I said errands were fine if he did not turn them into drama. He said he wanted calm, not drama. I said calm is another word for passive. He said passive is not his plan. I went to the bedroom to get my sweater. The small desk drawer was open a crack. When I stepped in, I heard a tiny metallic kiss, and the drawer snicked shut. He said he was tidying. I asked since when we locked drawers in our own home. He said passports and cables should be kept in one place. I said nothing in here walks away. He did not debate it. A black notebook lay square on the dresser, pen lined along its edge like a ruler. I asked if he was taking notes on me. He said, order helps when rooms get loud. I said rooms were only loud because the internet loves me. He said the internet does not live here. I tested angles. I told him Nico's jokes were about theatre people, not about us. He asked why Nico called him a careful man who needs training wheels. I said Nico is a performer, and performers exaggerate. He asked why I clapped. I said I was supporting the room because I know how to host. He asked if I can host my own marriage without strangers. I said I can, and I said I am, and I said he is the one building a narrative. He said he wants facts, because feelings wobble when crowds clap. My sister June texted me a row of laughing faces and a crown. She posted a boomerang of my smile from the rooftop and wrote that I was fearless. I held the phone up as if it were a certificate. I told Ethan even my family understood tone. He said family love does not rewrite actions. I said his mother always reads actions too narrowly. He said his mother asks for plain respect. I said plain is boring. He did not bite. He placed his hand on the counter and lined up a spoon with the edge, the way he does when he wants to breathe instead of argue. I pressed the theme of safety. I said city nights require fast decisions, and nearby friends are practical anchors. He asked why I called Nico a friend and a lover in the same month. I said labels are slow, chemistry is quick. He asked if I think vows are slow too. I said vows bend if people stay kind. He said kindness without respect is theatre. I hated that line because it sounded like something he planned. I told him he was getting help from a script. He said he was getting help from silence. I washed my cup and said my workday would be easy because I was good at order. He said order does not erase harm. I said there was no harm. He said his memory says otherwise. I said memory is subjective. He said that is why notes help. He looked at his phone again. A preview banner rose for a heartbeat. Follow up. He tapped it away. I asked who needed following up. He said he was trying to keep lines clear. I said lines are for classrooms, not kitchens. I stood by the door to put on my shoes and practiced a soft, wise tone. I said I loved him and that he should choose me over embarrassment. He asked if I would choose him over applause. I said applause is a test we passed already. He said he did not clap. I said he did not need to. The crowd clapped for both of us. He said, that is not how clapping works. I said it is how it works for couples who understand modern life. He walked toward the bedroom. As he crossed the threshold, I heard a small, crisp click as the door settled. The phone on the dresser gave one short, private buzz and then went still. In the quiet after, I thought I heard a faint electronic chirp, the kind an app makes when it starts or stops. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself he would cool down by noon. I told myself jokes do not break marriages. I told myself I am in charge of tone. I met the theatre crowd at a rooftop bar because sky and string lights make everything look soft. Nico was already there at a high table, telling a story about a stage ladder almost falling on a director. People laughed. He saw me and said, I looked like daylight. I said the city needed me. He told the circle that some men in this town cannot keep pace. I smiled and tilted my head like a good host. Someone asked if he meant Ethan. He said he meant anyone who thinks feelings are a schedule. I laughed and said schedules are my job. Phones rose without shame. When the DJ switched tracks, Nico retold the roast from last week about training wheels. I let the crowd look at me while I laughed. I said my husband is careful, and careful is sweet, and sweet does not always fit a skyline. People hooted. A stranger's camera light flared. Nico slapped the table and said my laugh proved we were a modern team. I told myself it was proof of nothing and everything at once. I let the proof stand because it kept me shiny. We drifted to the smoking patio because the air felt cooler there. The heat lamp hummed. I repeated the better lines so the people who had missed them could catch up. I said banter keeps couples flexible. I said jokes show trust. Nico leaned on the railing and said, Ethan never learned how to sprint, only how to sort. I smiled with my eyes, the trick I use when donors want something spicy but safe. Someone asked me to repeat the line for a friend on video. I said I would because I have good delivery. I said we laughed, we went home, all safe. The camera stayed steady. Nico winked at the lens. I pretended not to see that part. Work pulled at me, so I left early and walked to the theatre office. Ria, my manager, sent a message asking for a quick word. I waved through the glass and stepped into the small HR corner near the costumes rack. She asked if I knew a clip of me laughing was making the rounds. I said, people love to twist nothing into art. She said clients notice everything beside our logo. I said private life should stay private. She said private life moved to public when I turned toward a camera and performed. I said misogyny always finds a way to talk. She said risk also finds a way. She asked if I could ask June to take the clip down. I said June is an adult and I am not her handler. She said clients are also adults who move their budgets when they feel uneasy. I said nothing happened. She said harmless things do not need applause. I thanked her for support in the tone that ends a meeting. I went home to reset the room. Ethan sat at the table with headphones on, hands calm on the keyboard. On his laptop, I saw a spreadsheet with initials and dates. Columns were narrow, neat. I stepped closer. He pressed a key and the window minimized, a small shade dropping. In the corner of the screen, a cloud sync pop-up slid into view. File uploaded successfully. It faded. I said he was turning us into a case file. He said he was making sure stories do not drift. I said stories are how humans breathe. He said breathing is easier when the air is clean. I went to the shelf and found a binder labeled Utilities. It was too thick for bills. Inside, I saw tabs, meter photos, and notes with little color flags. I said this was obsessive. He said it saved time when services mess up. I asked why the binder had grown so much lately. He said time adds pages. I said we are not a project. He said we are a home. He closed the binder and set it back, aligned with the shelf edge. My phone buzzed with a group chat ping. Someone had posted the rooftop clip with a caption about Savage Queen. June messaged me 3 fire emojis and wrote that deleting is for cowards. I smiled and then felt a small tug in my stomach. I told Ethan we should host people soon so they see we are fine. He said performance would not help. I said performance teaches audiences how to feel. He said we are not a show. I said we met at a theatre. He said we did not marry one. I asked if he would like dinner out. He said he had tasks. He typed again. I leaned on the door frame and said his mother always liked him tidy. He said his mother likes him kind. I said she never liked me. He said that is not true. I said he could prove it by telling her to mind her lane. He said she stays in her lane. I said then he should get off this road. He did not respond. On the desk, the black notebook sat open. He wrote a short line, then made a gentle dash, like a quiet breath drawn straight. When I reached for his phone to hand it to him, a small alert pulsed and disappeared. Meeting, personal. He took the phone and set it face down without comment. I said secrets have a smell. He said order has a shape. I said my shape was still his wife. He said titles are not shields. I thought of a new line, the kind that wins a room, but the kitchen was empty of rooms to win. I went back to the theatre for an hour to feel useful. Ria caught me at the door and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine and that the internet would calm down. She said she hoped so and that a donor had asked about the clip. I said donors should focus on seats, not hearts. She said they usually focus on both. I laughed like a person with nothing to hide. On my way home, I stopped at the supermarket for flowers because flowers signal control. At checkout, the cashier slowed and glanced at her phone. The screen reflected my rooftop smile. She looked up with a careful face and asked if I needed a bag. I said no. Behind me, Mrs. Klein from our floor watched me, then looked at her phone, then watched me again. I stared straight ahead, as if cameras were useful friends. I paid and walked fast. The apartment smelled faintly like printer toner. A blank page sat on the output tray, its edge still warm. By the keys lay a sticky note. Bring forms. I asked the empty room which forms and why. Ethan came from the bedroom and said he had some errands. I asked if he wanted to talk first. He said we could talk when the air was cooler. I said I make the air cool by being calm. He said he was glad I felt that way. He put on a jacket and slipped the black notebook into the inner pocket. He paused by the door and asked if I would be at home later. I said yes, unless a friend needed me. He said he hoped my friends would need me less. I said I hoped his lists would need him less. He said one can hope. He stepped out, soft, no slam. I arranged the flowers in a glass and lined the stems until the angles felt right. I told myself order was winning. I told myself Nico's jokes were just sparkles on water. I told myself Ethan would remember I am the one who keeps calendars neat. Uncle Orrin's birthday filled the community centre hall with long tables and paper lanterns. The room smelled like pasta, soda, and lemon cleaner. I came late on purpose, so eyes would follow me. I carried a bright cake box and said traffic was wild. People clapped the way families do when they want an easy night. Ethan sat 3 seats from Marla. He nodded once and looked down. I told myself the nod meant forgiveness. I told myself one more good scene would fix the week. I started with small talk and gentle jokes. I told a cousin that the rooftop was loud and silly, and that Nico's roast meant nothing. I said we are a theatre crowd and theatre loves teasing. The cousin asked if Ethan minded. I said he is careful and calm, and careful men understand the stage. Ethan reached for water without looking up. I took that as proof he was fine. I passed a salad bowl like I was passing peace. June slid into the chair across from me with her phone already awake. She asked if I was ready to own it. I said yes, and that the internet likes fearless women. She told an aunt that I had a perfect laugh and a rule about guest beds. The aunt asked what rule. I said shoes stay on and the night stays clean. A few people laughed the way people laugh when they want to be modern. I felt taller. I glanced at Ethan to show him the room was with me. He cut his chicken into tidy squares and stayed quiet. Uncle Orrin tapped a spoon to a glass. He called for a toast because that is his favorite tool when the room goes loose. The room hushed in that happy way, then leaned forward. He asked for a story from me since I was the one with adventures. I lifted my water. I said, grown women know how to choose safety over pride. I said, sometimes a friend's bed is just a calm place to sleep when streets are loud. I said one night does not count if the bond stays true. A beat of silence hung like a coat. Then a section of the table laughed with relief, and phones rose like flowers. Someone asked if Leo's mattress was nicer than ours. I said it felt like a hotel, and I said the word hotel with a grin so people would feel comfortable. Jenna whispered that I should say it again for the camera. I said I would, because it was nothing. I repeated that the night did not count. A guest I barely knew filmed from the next table. I saw a small red light in the corner of his phone. I told myself the clip would make me look modern and brave. Daniel set his fork down and asked, in a voice that did not travel, if I was finished. I said we were just telling jokes, and that people should breathe. Ruth touched his sleeve and said we could change topics. Her voice was soft. It made the room quieter than the spoon had. After cake, small groups drifted to the side patio by the hall's smoking area. The air was cool and the concrete damp. I wanted another hit of crowd approval. I retold my neat summary and added that couples who last bend, not break. A couple of friends chuckled, but the sound had less joy. Leo arrived with 2 guys from the gym to drop off a card for Uncle Felix. He saw me and lifted a hand. I waved and called that we were fine. We were adults. He answered that I should get home safe. He kept moving. A man near the rail recorded again, not eager, just steady. He asked if I could repeat the line one more time, because his cousin did not catch it. I did. I thought I was steering. The next afternoon, I went to the supermarket to buy seltzer and flowers, so the kitchen would look calm. At checkout, the cashier paused, stared at her phone, then looked at me like she recognized my face but could not place the context. I kept my chin up. Behind me, a neighbor watched me, then scrolled something, then watched me again. In the reflection of the sneeze guard, I saw a paused frame of my toast, my mouth open on the word hotel. My cheeks warmed. I paid and left as if I had a car waiting, even though I walked. At home, the apartment smelled faintly like warm plastic again. I followed the smell to the office nook. The printer had spit a single blank page onto the tray. Next to Daniel's keys lay a sticky note that said, "Bring forms." The words looked ordinary. They did not feel ordinary. I asked the heir which forms and why. The heir did not answer. On his keyring, a new dark blue key hung with rubber edging. I lifted it, felt its weight, then set it down. I told myself organization is love, and love means this is still repairable. That evening, as I wiped the counter, I heard a tiny beep, the kind of phone makes when a recording app turns on or off. It came from the office corner, and then stopped. I called to Daniel and asked if he needed my help with anything. He said he was fine and that he was finishing tasks. I said tasks can wait when feelings are at stake. He said feelings last longer when order holds them. I rolled my eyes and told myself he was rehearsing for a speech I would not let him give. On Sunday, we met Ruth and Maya at the park so Lily could run the playground. The sun was bright, and the metal slides gleamed like coins. I told myself I would show how normal we were. I pushed Lily on the swing and told her I had stickers for her robot book. She laughed and asked where Uncle Daniel was sitting. I said he was walking for fresh air. Across the field, Daniel paced the path with his phone at his ear. The screen showed the word private where a name should be. He spoke in a low voice and traced the same loop like he was measuring something invisible. Ruth arrived with a bag of cut apples and handed some to Lily. She asked how the week was going. I said the week was loud and people online were bored, but we were good. She said boredom is not the problem. I said the problem is judgment. She said pain does not care about jokes. I said jokes are how communities breathe. She said children breathe best in steady rooms. Her tone was kind, and that made it worse. Lily dragged her feet to slow the swing, then asked why Uncle Daniel sleeps on the couch. She asked it like she was checking a fact from school. The word settled like a stone in a pond. I said adults sometimes nap in different places because of back pain. She nodded but did not smile. She asked if I slept in another bed because of back pain too. I said yes, and I said the city can be unsafe late at night. Lily looked at Ruth. Ruth kept her eyes on the sky and said peace needs truth. I said I had told the truth from the start. She said truth without respect feels thin. Maya walked over with a small first aid kit because she's a teacher and has a kit for everything. She asked if we were okay. I said we were fine and that people were exaggerating. She said respect is not a trend. I said respect is not a leash. She said Lily repeats what she hears and that we should keep adult stories away from her ears. I said I cannot control the internet. She said I can control my voice. I smiled and said the family should not pick sides. She said she was picking quiet. Daniel rejoined us and asked if we were ready to walk to the cars. He put his phone face down on the bench. I asked about the call. He said it was a meeting to schedule. I asked what kind of meeting. He said personal. I said personal should be between us. He said personal also needs order. I said order is not love. He said love needs order to survive storms. I said storms blow over. He said some storms build. On the way home, we stopped at the pharmacy because I needed cotton pads. In the queue, a neighbor from our building stepped behind us. She asked how I was holding up. I said I was fine, and that online moods change with the wind. She said she hoped the week calmed, and that everyone chose kindness. I said kindness starts with assuming good intent. She nodded, then looked at her phone, and scrolled past a post that showed my face at a party. I pretended I did not see it. My skin felt tight. We took the stairs instead of the elevator because I said I needed exercise. In the stairwell, I told Daniel I wanted to speak before we went inside. I said I was sorry his feelings were hurt, but the night was harmless. I said he was making a simple choice into a trial. He said labels do not shrink actions. I said everyone knows that sharing a bed is neutral if both people are adults. He said our marriage is not a forum. I said distance is a punishment. He said distance is a boundary while he thinks. I said thinking is stalling. He said he would not rush. I put my key into the lock. From inside came a low, steady hum, the kind that sounds like a small machine chewing. It stopped the instant the door opened. The living room felt extra neat, like a hotel lobby at night. On the console, the mail stack was flipped face down in tidy piles. Near the router sat a small USB stick with today's date written on a label. I asked what the shredder was for. Daniel said he was clearing junk. I asked why the USB had a date. He said he was organizing backups. I said he was turning home into an archive. He said order takes work. I went to the desk for my charger and saw the laptop screen awake. Browser tabs sat along the top, storage options, delivery tracking, notary near me. A message thread in the corner was titled Follow Up. A small beep sounded, and the preview line blinked once, then disappeared. I closed the lid with 2 fingers and told myself I would not be intimidated by tabs and lists. I said he was acting like a clerk, not a husband. He said a husband can be steady and still be a clerk for truth. I said that sounded like a quote he practiced in the mirror. He did not answer. He took a notebook from the drawer that now clicked when it closed. I texted Jenna from the bedroom and said the house felt staged. She replied that she would not take sides and that I should stop giving people lines to repeat. I asked if she believed me. She sent a heart and nothing else. I threw the phone on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I told myself the family was ganging up on me. I told myself I would push the story back into my hands. I told myself I only needed one strong scene and a smart line. We ate in silence that night. I tried to talk about a patient at the clinic who had a sweet dog and a broken crown. Daniel nodded once. He washed his plate right away, drying it with the same motion he used to wipe the counter that first morning. I said he should speak to me like a partner, not like a witness. He said he would speak when it mattered. I said it mattered now. He said he heard me and that he would act carefully. Before bed, I stepped onto the balcony to breathe. The city hummed and the air felt damp. Through the glass, I saw Daniel at the table with headphones on. The screen glowed with a clean desktop tree labeled Archive A and Archive B. A small image viewer sat open with the edge of a document photo peeking out. A calendar alert blinked and vanished. Meeting, personal. I told myself meetings are nothing. Alarms are nothing. Photos are nothing. I told myself I still had control. I told myself nothing counted. I went to the co-working lounge and chose a table near the window, because light makes people behave. I told myself I needed an audience, not for drama, for balance. Daniel was already there with headphones on. He had that calm posture that makes other people lower their voices. I started before I lost nerve. I said nothing had changed since day one, that the night with Leo did not count, and that he should stop turning private life into a checklist. He slid one ear cup off and said public scenes were not useful. I said I did not fear the public because the public had already laughed with me. He said laughter was not proof. I said fear was not leadership. On his screen, I saw a clean desktop with 2 folders named Archive A and Archive B. A tiny image viewer half hid a photo of a document, only the edge visible. A calendar alert blinked and faded. Meeting, personal. I kept my voice steady and said he should close the office in his head and come back to the marriage. He said order helps feelings last. I said feelings need risk, not rules. He said rules stop harm from repeating. I invited him to lunch so we could show the world we were fine. He said he had tasks. I said tasks sounded like excuses. He said tasks built calm. I leaned back and let my chair creak like a warning. He did not flinch. I said he was letting his mother's worries run our house. He said his mother did not live with us. I said she lived in his phone and in his head. He said silence was not consent to chaos. I said he was punishing me for being modern. He said he was protecting peace. An alert slid across his phone and disappeared. Paper drop 7:50 a.m. He picked the device up and turned it face down. I laughed and said he had become a clerk. He said a clerk for truth is better than a judge for ego. I told him I was ready to forgive his cold shoulder if he was ready to say we were fine. He said, forgiveness follows honesty. I said I had been honest all along. He said words can be honest and still be incomplete. When he packed up, I followed him to the parking garage. The air smelled like dust and rubber. He opened the trunk. 3 binders sat side by side with simple labels: home, auto, bank. I said he was building a stage set. He said he liked labels because they prevent confusion. I asked if I was a tab in one of those. He said I was a person, and he was a person, and documents were for events, not souls. I said yet he carried them like armor. He said armor was shouting. This was order. I shifted tactics and softened my voice. I said, love wins when people choose each other over pride. He said love struggles when respect is bent. I said respect is flexible in real cities. He said it is steady in real homes. I said Leo would tell him nothing happened. He said Leo was not his referee. I said he made me feel unsafe with all this distance. He said he would not be baited into a loud scene. I said then he should prove he loved me. He said proof would be process, not performance. Back home, he set his bag on the table and put on headphones. The small black notebook lay open. He wrote a line and drew a short dash, tidy and patient. I walked to the balcony and called Jenna. I told her Daniel was building a museum of routines. She said I should stop posting lines for strangers to clip. I said stopping would look like guilt. She said looking like care might help. I ended the call and stared at the street, where cars moved like rules. Evening cooled the rooms. He cooked simple pasta and washed his plate. I stood across the counter and asked if he wanted to try counseling. He said he wanted truth first. I said the truth was that I slept at Leo's, full stop. He said the truth was also that I enjoyed telling crowds it did not count. I said the crowds made the fear smaller. He said crowds make wounds louder. I said I was tired of being put on trial. He said there would be no trial in this home. I followed him down the hall, still talking. He paused at the doorway like a person deciding which road to take. He said he would handle it properly. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He did not list steps. He only said that line, and it landed like a tap on glass. Small sound, big crack. He turned and went to the office. The door did not slam. It closed with a polite click. The next day, I arranged my shift to leave early and meet Maya at the school pickup line so I could look helpful. I wore a steady color and smooth shoes. The sidewalk was busy with parents, idling cars, children darting toward cones. The crossing guard's whistle cut the air at regular beats. I told myself this was a place of normal life. I stood by the gate with my tote and smiled at 2 teachers, polite and bright. Daniel stood a few paces away near the bike racks with Omar from his office. They were not talking much. Omar nodded once to me and then looked down at his shoes. Daniel's face was calm in that way that says nothing will move him today. I lifted a hand, half wave, half request. He did not step closer. I thought he wanted me to walk to him. I stayed put because I needed to look rooted. A woman with a clipboard approached and asked my name in a clear, professional tone. I said yes. She checked the page, then confirmed my full name. I asked if there was a delivery. She said service could be complete by acceptance or by placing them after confirmation. I said someone had made a mistake. She spoke my name again, steady, and held out the envelope. The sound in the concourse changed by 1 notch, the way rooms do when privacy breaks. The departure board flipped, plastic clacked. Gabe turned a little and watched the floor. The envelope looked heavier than paper. I said this could be done at home. She repeated that service would be complete once I accepted or once the envelope touched me. I said fine and took it with 2 fingers, like it might stain. She said service was complete. Her voice did not rise or fall. She stepped aside. I looked at Ethan. I said we could talk. He said the packet explains next steps. He said temporary orders are included so calm can hold. He said he would not argue in a terminal. His voice was quiet and kind in a way that made me feel noisy. I slid the top sheet with my thumb. The heading was a wall. It said divorce petition. Inside were temporary financial and possession orders and an initial schedule note for access to the apartment and for collecting shared items. There was a notice for a status conference. The words sat in rows like a fence. I said this was too much for jokes. He said it was for more than jokes. I said he was making me look like a villain. He said he was making room for dignity. I said he was hurting my job. He said work can be rescheduled. Respect cannot. I said he did not have to do this here. He said this place was public, so no one had to raise a voice. He said we both liked witnesses, in different ways. He was right, and I hated it. A bus door hissed open. A wave of cool air rolled across the floor. A child laughed near a stack of suitcases, then went quiet, like even children know when to watch. My phone shook in my tote. Group chats blinked. June typed 3 words, then deleted them. Marla did not write at all. The departure board clattered again. The name of a new city slid into place. I held the envelope harder because my hands needed a job. I took 1 step toward Ethan and said we could fix this if he just came home and sat at the table. He said the table could hold papers better than speeches right now. He said the orders would help this week be calm while we think. He said I could contact him through the channels listed for now. The words channels listed sounded like a hallway I did not want to walk down. I said he could not be serious. He said seriousness was the point. He looked at Gabe, who nodded once like a witness who knows silence is best. A security guard at the desk glanced over and then looked back at his screen. The woman with the clipboard wrote a quick note and walked away. I felt the envelope's edge press into my palm. I said I wanted to explain. Ethan said I had explained many times to many rooms, and that now he would explain to a few forms. He said this was not revenge. He said it was order. He said he wished me calm. He turned and walked toward the glass doors where the streetlight looked clean. I stood by the gate sign and watched him move through the crowd without pushing anyone. The board clacked again. A bus pulled in and released a soft sigh, the kind machines make when they finish a task. My tote slipped and thumped my leg. The envelope shifted, heavy and sure. I told myself to stand up straight. I told myself to breathe. I could not hear my own advice over the hiss and clatter. I looked at the spot where Ethan had stood and saw nothing there but a square of tiled floor and a reflection of the ceiling lights. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.